In the books, Drogon burned her in the fighting pits of Meereen with his black and scarlet flame, so she can definitely be burnt. But aside from her hair, she survived those big fires. Here's how she did it. As George R.R. Martin put it, Dany made up the magic as she went along, barely under control and half instinctive. Every time that Dany survived these miracles, there was a common factor: other people dying, other people being burned. Mirri warned Dany that blood magic is not a game for children. But Dany thinks a child can learn, and she did, from Mirri. Mirri taught her that only death can pay for life. Dany did not care about Mirri's screams, she only cared about her life. She embraced Mirri's life fire, and she let it in. Meanwhile, Dany confronted the spirits of the dead at Drogo's pyre. Dany married the figurative dragon. She accessed magic through instinct and self-belief with a capital B, leveraging powers older and truer than hatred, namely, love. Mirri's death paid for Dany's life, and for the first time in hundreds of years, the night came alive with the music of dragons. Something similar happened with the Khals. Their deaths paid for her own life. It was magical, but unnatural. This is clue number 1, the Bride of Dragons. We'll get back to this. Now let's look at the Wall and the Night's Watch. Bran the Builder supposedly created the Great Wall after the Long Night, as well as Winterfell and Storm's End. All three of these places are magical. The dead cannot pass. That's why Melisandre had Davos ferry her underneath the castle walls at Storm's End before releasing the Shadow Baby, because Stannis' shadow would not have been able to pass by the magic by itself if she had birthed the baby out in the ocean. And it's also why the dead army will not be able to breach Winterfell in Season 8 unless it is damaged first by Viserion or something else. The Ice Wall has the same magic. As Benjen said, the dead cannot pass. Of course, some whites did get by in Season 1, but that's because the Night's Watch invited them through, like a vampire invitation method. Go check out that video. But it's important to note that no one knows how the Ice Wall was created, because it happened thousands of years before written history. There are tinfoil theories that the White Walkers created it. I mean, it's a huge wall made out of ice, so that seems logical. Or maybe the Night's King of history and lore, maybe he created the wall. But the lore that's been passed down says that the giants helped. But if they did, they might not have done so willingly. Bran the Builder may have warged giants and got them to build his freaking ice wall. Slavery. The Bran Starks love doing that to animals and to people. See you soon, Hodor. But here's something that you may not have known about the wall. Some maesters believe that the foundation of the wall is stone. The magic is in its foundation. Fun stuff, but let's jump over to an even more important wall, the Wall of Death. Maester Aemon referenced it one time, and so did Jon. Jon dreamt that he was in the crypts. He heard Robb's voice and Eddard's, but there was a wall between them. This is clue 2, the Wall of Death. We'll get back to this also. Next up, the Night's Watch and their original vow. First off, the vow may have changed after the Night's King was brought down. They may have expanded the vow on back of the Night's King to prevent people from doing things like owning land or having a wife. Check out that video. But more importantly, the vow speaks about watchers on the walls. Walls plural. So it cannot be referring to this one big ass wall. This is clue number 3, walls plural. One more, then we can put this all together and predict the endgame for Daenerys Stormborn, Jon Snow, the Night King, and others. But first, let's look at the Age of Heroes. The children and the humans warred. Then supposedly they created a peace pact. Then there was the Age of Heroes, and at the end of the Age of Heroes, the Long Night supposedly happened. The White Walkers returned. The Age of Heroes was marked by legends like Bran the Builder, Lan the Clever, Durin Godsgrief, the Grey King, Garth Greenhand, and others. Some think that Garth Greenhand was father to them all. The songs sing of Garth as this good dude who carried around a big bag of seeds, and he taught men to farm. But as usual, it's a play on words: flowers, farming, seeds, fruits. They say that he can make barren women fruitful, maidens ripened in his presence, and lords and common folk alike offered up their virgins to him. But let's be real, this dude was a weirdo, a power-hungry, self-entitled, evil bastard. People looked at him like a god, just like Beric's followers do, Jon's boys do, and Daenerys' children do. But even when people didn't support all his goals, they didn't look at him like a god. Garth probably ran around everyone that he wanted, so of course he had a ton of children. What about the other supposed heroes in the Age of Heroes? Lan the Clever was supposedly 312 years old. Doran and the Grey King reigned for 1,000 years. Some maesters believe that these legends were actually multiple people with the same name. It makes sense to us living in the real world, and it makes sense to the maesters. But little do the maesters know, some people do live a long time in this fantasy world, like the Night King and Melisandre. So there's a chance that these legends did live for hundreds or even thousands of years, They're either ice magic or fire magic. That's clue 4. Now let's put this all together. What is the Night's Watch's purpose? They have a big vow, but you only need to know one thing. They are the shield that guards the realms of men.
Night gathers and now my watch begins.
No, not that bit. The bit at the end.
I'm the shield that guards the realms of men.
Maybe we don't need to understand any more than that. Maybe that's enough.
The shield that guards the realms of men. I pledge my life.
Wait, that's enough. The shield that guards the realms of men.
Aye. Maybe that's enough.
At the beginning of the story, they thought that the realms of men was a land south of the wall, and they sought to protect the alleged realms of men from free folk, who they called wildlings. Jon realized that this was a mistake. Now, they still think that the realms of men is the land south of the wall, but they are seeking to protect the realms from the others, the White Walkers. But they are wrong on both accounts. The vow referenced walls plural, so it cannot be referring to this one ice wall. It might refer to the ice wall and the walls of Winterfell and Storm's End, since Bran the Builder supposedly constructed all 3 of them. But probably not, because the walls of Winterfell weren't built for another few thousand years, and Storm's End was rebuilt multiple times. The magic of these places is in their foundations, and Bran the Builder probably only constructed the original parts of all 3 places, like the first keep at Winterfell, the place where Jaime and Cersei did their thing, the crypts of Winterfell, the Great Tower at Storm's End, and the stone wall foundation of the Ice Wall. So here's another idea. The Night's Watch vow did not relate to any of those. The word walls in the Night's Watch's vow relates to the wall of death, the walls between the dead and the living. If so, this changes the meaning of the realms of men. It's not about a physical location, it's about a spiritual location. When you die, you should stay dead. They violated this during the Age of Heroes. All those legends were demigods living hundreds or even thousands of years through blood sacrifices, killing people at weirwood trees like we see in Bran's final vision of the books. That may be why the weirwoods have red sap. It's actually blood. Even Ned unknowingly conducted blood sacrifices to weirwoods whenever he was washing off his sword ice at the pool by the Winterfell Heart Tree. And some of these supposed heroes from the Age of Heroes, like Balon Blackskin, may have even been White Walkers, because there are stories of weapons shattering when they hit them, just like we've seen with White Walkers. There's some evidence that the demigods fought amongst themselves, or that they fought against dragon riders that came to invade back in the day. Wait, Kev, dragon riders you say? Yeah. First off, there are plenty of signs of dragons in Westeros thousands of years ago, like the Bones of Naga, or Jormungand's Horn, which is probably a dragon binding horn, which could have been used to bond a dragon and bring down the wall. And on top of the dragon clues, we've got other signs, like the foundation of the High Tower in Old Town, and the Sea Stone Chair. They were both made of oily black stone. Black stone's the kind of stuff you find in Volantis, the place where Melisandre went in Season 7, Fire. Black stone's also found in Valyria, but the freehold of Valyria did not exist during the time of the First Men. Black stone was also used to construct the 5 forts in Yi Ti, so most likely, these dragon riders came from the Shadowlands beyond Asshai. And one more thing, there's a place down by Old Town called Battle Isle. What battle was fought there? Only Bran can know, but it seems likely that the heroes from the Age of Heroes fought in a war, or rather a song of ice and fire. The heroes and the villains both breached the Wall of Death. They were all keeping themselves alive, unnaturally, through blood sacrifices with fire, and with ice magic at Weirwoods. In other words, they were all evil demigods. Of course, the winning side made sure that the songs that were sung about them were good ones. They made them look brave and honorable. But I have a lot of doubts, so I think we should stop calling it the Age of Heroes. It was the Age of Weirdos, the Age of Cheaters. And right now, we've got a few cheaters of our own. The Night King, Melisandre, the Mountain, Beric Dondarrion, Jon Snow, and Daenerys Stormborn. All of them have used blood magic, blood sacrifice to cheat death, to extend their lives. Thoros gave up part of his life to raise Beric, and Davos gave up part of his life to raise Jon. Qyburn used the lives of girls to do whatever the hell he did to the Mountain, and the Night King is kept alive through the blood sacrifices to weirwood trees. Melisandre steals life fire from the people that she burns, and so does Dany. So from a storytelling perspective, we should expect all of them to be donezo before the curtain closes on Season 8, because they're all breaking the Night's Watch vows. Big no-no. On a lighter note, Thug Rose is an inspiration. But until next time, catch you on the flip side.
He shouldn't be alive. It's not right.
His time will come. All their times will come.
But but we all die.
Just like it.